Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dwarven Tavern. I am Dr. Jeff Goins, your host once again, and this is indeed a continuation of the Pathfinder 2nd edition series of reviews and talks, general discussion. It's not just a review. It goes for 59.99. Yeah, I had to look at the back. Fine, whatever. I'll just do it from now on. But this time we're going to talk about the skills and feats chapters because each chapter is relatively short. But first, I am going to mention a few things that I did not mention in the last video, which was about the classes. Now, one of the things that I think is probably the coolest aspect, I don't know why I left it out, because it was so prevalent in my mind, but the coolest thing about the classes is that it's 1,000 XP to level up. Just 1,000. You get 1,000. This does a whole plethora, if you will, of really cool things. Number one, there's no what is 36,000 XP? What level is that? There's none of that. You get 1,000 XP, and then you level up your character, and then you subtract 1,000 from your total. Whatever's left over goes toward your next one. It's as simple as that. All the creatures, they don't have challenge ratings. They've got levels to show you the game master what would be good to put against who, but it's not based on the challenge rating, because there's all kinds of contentions about challenge rating in 3.5, and it's like the whole scaling of the party level, and all of the 300 like 1,200, 900, 300, just depending on your level and how much experience points you get, and blah blah blah. And it's just it's always been kind of a headache for me. I guess primarily because I'm used to well, not anymore. I haven't played first edition in months, but because we have a first edition campaign going. But the point is that the 1,000 experience points, you don't have to do any calculations other than just addition and subtraction. It simplifies that. There's no escalation of monsters. The more challenging it is, the more experience points you get. Just period. Just that's what it is. Just straight up. So you don't have to worry about that much, and you get the same amount. Like if you're first level and you're fighting an orc, it was really challenging, you would get the same amount of XP as if you're 20th level fighting some kind of a demigod or something that would be as challenging to the 20th level as the orc was to the first level character. So there's that. Very cool. I like that tremendously. And the other thing is the whole class DC, and that will lead us into the skills aspect of it. And so the class, everybody gets a class DC, which I think the easification of this game is what these rules are all about. Because you get a class DC, which is 10 plus that class's key ability, which it says it in the book. Just for a quick example, if you are an alchemist, you get the alchemist class. You're trained in the alchemist class DC, which is your class DC, which is 10 plus trained, which is plus 2. plus intelligence, your intelligence modifier. So if you had a high intelligence, it would be 10 plus 4 plus 2, which would make your class DC a 16. Super simple to remember. And, you don't have to look through a stack of pages to find out what the crap's going on. Because, I am probably remiss in this, but, I could never remember when I cast the spell when I was playing a sorcerer or something, or a wizard of sorts. I could never remember what the save DCs were against the spells that I cast. And it's like, is it 10 plus your int mod plus your level or the spell level, or what is it? And then I would find out and then promptly forget it again. So there's that. So that brings us to skills. Speaking of DCs, skills are handled quite differently in this set of rules. In that, your skills are, I mentioned before, you got untrained, trained, expert, legend, master, and legendary. God, I will get it. Untrained, trained, expert, master, and legendary. There's 5 levels of skillage. And those levels are called proficiencies. And so that proficiency bonus, and it's cool. Let's look into it. So you get your key ability, and notice there's no skill points, because all the skill points are automatically accrued by your character class and your proficiency bonus and your key ability. For instance, here on page 235, that doesn't look like 3 pages, but it's chapter 4. Here you have a number of skills. Wow, and they're exciting. They're quite exciting. You have a number of skills that are broad skilled, and it's really cool the way they broke them down, because you have the skill, for instance, of Arcana. That is a skill. The key ability is intelligence, so it's your intelligence modifier. If you are untrained, you can do a thing called recalling knowledge. And recalling knowledge is you attempt a skill check to try and remember a bit of knowledge regarding a topic related to that skill. The GM determines the DCs for such checks and which skills apply. And then it has, in each of these skills, it has the results for critical success, which is 10 or more than what you need. And then it has the results for the success, and then the result for a critical failure, which is 10 or more below what you need. Now, of course, a natural 1 and a natural 20 also count as that. So the other thing is you have task difficulties, which if the task itself is, it can be broken into those categories of untrained, trained, expert, master, and legendary. And a simple DC is 10 for untrained, 15 for trained, 20 for expert, 30 for master, and 40 for legendary. It's right there in front of you. It's super easy. And I think what they've done is, I think someone they had to have had some sort of a think tank or a focus group and said, what do we all hate about 3.5 or even 3.75? What aspects of it? And somebody would probably say something like, well, I hate having to come up with a DC for, I'm going to try and pick this lock or whatever. And someone says, well, what's the DC for that? and then you gotta sit and think. Well, is it a difficult lock? Is it a master lock? Is it blah blah blah? And then you gotta make all these these thoughts and calculations and blah blah blah. What I normally do is I normally take a straight DC like 20 if it's a hard lock, and in this case that would be an expert lock. Okay, and I would roll an 8-sided or a random die. I'd just grab a random die, which is in this case a 10-sided, and I'd say it was everything over 5 would be a plus, and everything under the halfway part would be a minus to that DC. So, and that's an easy thing to do at random because everything's different, and kind of changes it up a little bit. And so I rolled a 6, which would make it 1 over the middle, so it would be a 21. You'd need a 21 DC. In this case, but getting that base number has always been annoying to have to do to me, because I like tables and matrices, and I like things that are set in stone, not necessarily rules, but if there's a number involved, I like it to be there. I like it to be in my graps, and in this case it is. So if it's a lock, just for instance, if it's a lock made by a master locksmith, the DC to pick that sucker would be 30. So then it's like, have at it. It's a good lock. It's a master lock. It's a a double wafer. Well, let's see. I know a little bit about locksmithing, so it would be maybe a because the normal house locks are like 5-pin tumblers, which is a cylinder with the 5 pins that stick down at varying levels of. You put the pick in and the tension wrench, and you get them all into place to where all the levels line up to the cut spot where the cylinder in the lock turns, and that opens the lock. But in some cases, if it was a double pin, it would have pins up here and pins down here. There's even locks that have depression plates on either side as well as the top and bottom, and good thieves make for good locks. So just depending, a legendary lock would be a hard sum gun to pick, and that's a DC of 40. And then if you wanted to add some kind of a random modifier, you could do that. So then you have various. The other thing that's really cool about this is you've got various skill action signifiers, which each skill tells you if it's a single action, a double action, if it can be used only. There are some skills that can only be used during downtime, which I'm not sure I entirely agree with in some of these, like the treat disease, that can only be done in downtime. Earn an income, yeah, which is hilarious. Earning is a downtime thing. Creating a forgery, I guess you couldn't really do that in battle, but if you were, if you were in a rush job, I imagine that could probably just like double the DC if you were pressed to do it. Like if you had to sign a check, go around a corner and sign a check, forge someone's name on this person has done what this person has done, so saith the king, and you have to forge this king's seal. That would be difficult to do under duress, I would think. So, subsist is a downtime thing, which is amazing. It's an amazing skill, and all of these skills are either an untrained or a trained sub-action of the major skill group, such as subsist is it's an untrained action of the society skill. So you have society, which is intelligence, which the untrained skills thereof are recall knowledge, which is a general skill action. And that's a general skill action. And then subsist is a general skill action that can only be used during downtime. So it has no actions to do. You don't have to use 1, 2, or 3 actions to do it. So then the other two things of the trained part of the society skill is creative forgery and decipher writing. And it says decipher writing is a skill that is used. Its skill action is used during the exploration part or phase of your adventures, and it's also a general skill action. So then you gain your skills from your from various sources. You can gain skills from your ancestry, dwarf ancestry, or gnome, or whatever. And then of course your class gives you various skills. And one of the things that I like about this little sidebar at the first part of the chapter is it says it has 3 different areas: improving skills, skill increases, and skill feats. And I'll explain those, and then we'll talk. You and me. Improving skills. As your character advances in level, there are 2 main ways their skills improve: skill increases and skill feats. Your class lists the levels at which you gain each of those improvements. And let's take a look, shall we? And we'll look at the... what are we looking at? Cleric. Okay, we'll jump over here to cleric. So, skill feats, as I bob my head as if some sort of a bird. Let's see, general skills, skill increases. Here we go. At 3rd level and every 2 levels thereafter, you gain a skill increase. You can use this increase to either become trained in one skill you're untrained in, or become an expert in one of the skills you're already trained. And at 7th level, you may become a master in something you're an expert in. And at 15th, you may become legendary in something you're a master in. As I end the sentence with a wrong thing here. So, what that means is the skills that you get right off the bat as a clerk is you are trained in religion. You are trained in one skill determined by your choice in deity. And then you're trained in a number of additional skills equal to 2 plus your intelligence modifier. So if you have a high intelligence, you're quite capable of becoming even more skillful than someone who's not very intelligent. So that means if you have an 18 intelligence, you get plus 4. Excuse me. If you have an 18, you get a plus 4, then that means you get an additional 6 skills that you may be considered trained in. And then it says initial proficiencies. This is another thing to consider. At 1st level, you gain the listed proficiency ranks in the following statistics. You are untrained in anything not listed unless you gain a better proficiency rank in some other way. And then it goes down to tell you what you are proficient in, like trained in perception, trained in fortitude, trained in reflex, expert in will. And that's your saving throws. You're expert in them, in will saves, because you're a cleric and they have to have a lot of devotion, a lot of willpower. So that means that's your level plus, if you're an expert, it's your level plus 4. So it's so simple. And I really enjoyed this. Then your skill increases. Skill increases improve your proficiency in skills of your choice. You can use these increases to become trained in new skills or increase your proficiency rank in skills you're trained in, from trained to expert at any level, expert to master at 7th, and I just went over that. Unlike when you first become trained at a skill, if two different abilities would make you an expert, master, or legendary in a skill, you don't get to choose a second skill or to become expert in. The redundant benefit simply has no effect. So, if you level up in something or you get a skill feat and they both say that you become increase your proficiency in, say, athletics, then it wouldn't double up. You wouldn't become, if you were expert, you wouldn't become master and then legendary because you leveled up in these two. You would only get one increase, which it's arguable that that's kind of crappy, but I get it. And you know, again, this is more of a set of guidelines, you know. And then with skill feats are a type of general feat that often grant you a new way to use a skill or make you better at using a skill in a particular way. A new way to use a skill, or a new way to use a skill. Skill feats always have the skill trait. These feats appear in Chapter 5, which we'll talk about. And then we have the various skills listed, which, you know, it's the way they've written it, and I mentioned this in previous videos. The way everything is listed, it is very, I would say, expertly delineated and noted what each thing is for. I've only found like a couple of brief ambiguities of explanation, exposition. For instance, let's take a look at the way the skills are written. See if I can see where it. Okay, for instance, earned income. The very first there's a little block under that. It says downtime. And it says you use one of your skills to make money. During downtime, the GM assigns a task level representing the most lucrative job available, and you can search for lower level tasks with the GM determining whether you find any. So, you know, it's like being a bard. Well, some would say that that's very lucrative. Some would argue otherwise. Any of you musicians out there know that it's either very easy to make money or not at all. So let's say you're a first level bard. You want to make a little dough, make a few coin, and you go and so I rolled a frackin' 2. Roll a different die. My potion of random numbers. So that was even almost as good. Well, that was an 8. So with my level, that's makes it a 9. And then if I have, let's say I'm trained in it, that gives me +2. Making it an 11 plus my intelligence modifier, which is +4 because I'm pretty smart. So that would make it a 15, which would mean if the task were a trained task, which would make it a 10, then that means that my income earned for the amount of time. Sometimes you can attempt to find better work. You do competent work. I succeeded at that. You do competent work because it was a 15 and trained is only a 10, if you remember. Gain the amount of currency listed for the task level and your proficiency rank. So I went out and I played my Tootle Tube, and I raked in 10 gold pieces for that performance. So the GM can set how long it takes. I was just reading this this example. So the GM can say, well, this is an evening's performance, or this could take several days or a week of work, or even a month, just depending on what the GM says. So that's how it is. So I think it's a really good system, and it's super easy. It was super easy for me to find out, even though I had to read. But yeah. And then there's other things like recall knowledge. It's a concentrate. You have to concentrate, and it's a secret. It's a secret roll. So meaning that I roll it behind my screen if I'm the GM, and so forth. So all of the skills are they're very simply delineated and very straightforward. Maneuver and flight is a move action. It's a single action. If someone wants to do a high jump, that's 2 actions, because everybody gets 3. And so it would be 2 actions because you got to run and jump. Force open is action. Long jump is 2 actions. I'm trying to see what are... there's a couple that are actual reactions. But the point is that I like the way these skills are laid out, and I like the way they're resolved. It's all very right there in front of you. So that brings us to feats, which I was actually pretty upset when I first went over the feats, because there was no point blank shot, and there's no great cleave, and all the wonderful feats that made fighters worth living. But the general feats are just one area through which a character may acquire feats of ability. For instance, there's here on page 255 through 257, there is the general headings of feats. And general feat is like non-skill feats. Okay, these are the general feats of non-skill feats, as I just said twice. Adopted ancestry. You gain an ancestry. You gain ancestry to ancestry. You gain access to ancestry feats from another ancestry. And adopted ancestry. Okay, so some would argue that was they call it cultural appropriation, but armor proficiency. You become trained in a type of armor. Breath control, canny acumen, die hard, fast recovery, and some of these have prerequisites, like feats do. Like fast recovery, you have to have a 14 constitution or better. And you regain more hit point from rest, recover faster from disease and poisons, which is always wonderful. So then you have general skill feats. Assurance is trained. The prereq is trained in at least one skill, and then the benefit is receive a fixed number on a skill check. What does that mean? Well, in the listing of feat, it's a first level feat, which is also really cool because some of these feats are like 7th level. You can't get bizarre magic until you're 7th level. It's a fortune, it's a general, and it's a skill feat. You have to be trained in at least one skill, which I think everybody is. Even in the worst circumstances, you can perform basic tasks. Choose a skill you're trained in. You can forego rolling a skill check for that skill instead to receive a result of 10 plus your proficiency bonus. Do not apply any other bonuses, penalties, or modifiers. You can select this feat multiple times. Each time, choose a different skill and gain the benefits from that skill. So you have to have a feat to take 10. You can't just do it. Which I'm okay with. My characters never, or my players when I'm DMing or GMing, rarely ever take 10 on things. And there's many times when I don't allow them to, especially under duress, because or any sort of activity where it could be funny, like the Roger Rabbit syndrome. There are other feats like recognize spell, trick magic item. So you can trick a magic item into activating even if you normally can't activate it. So it's like, oh no, if you rub the wand down here in the back, it'll, quick recognition, identify spells as a free action, so forth. So there's Arcana skills, and they're broken down into general skill groups like athletics, crafting, deception skill feats, diplomacy skill feats, intimidation, lore, medicine, nature, occultism, performance, religion, society, legendary code breaker, thunder, stealth skills, survival skill feats, and thievery skill feats. So these are skill feats that you get. Legendary negotiation. It's a general skill feat, and it takes 3 actions to do. So, you got to spend your entire round saying, well, if you kill us now, you're going to get blood all over your carpet. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is, because I bleed a lot. I'm kind of a hemophile. And that takes a while, I don't want to kill you, and you don't want to be dead. The kip up is a, and I'm still getting used to the symbology. That was a little bit of a power outage, so I'm still trying to get used to the symbology of it, somewhat. And a free action. That the kip up is a free action symbol, and so forth. So it all of these the feats are good. And the other thing too, and one of the things that I wanted to mention, because I mentioned previously how things like the like point blank shot and stuff like that were not a thing anymore. And I was wrong, because fighters get feats such as point blank shot. It's a first level feat. You can aim and pick off enemies with a ranged weapon very quickly. And staggering strike and sudden charge and aggressive block and assisting shot and brutish shove and knockdown, and all those are fighter feats, and other classes can't take them unless you take the The now all I can think of is a cultural appropriation. The blah 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 blah, blah adopted ancestry. But that's not a fighter feat. That's an ancestry feat. Sorry. But if you multi-class, for instance, the multi-classing thing, you can have the dueling parry, even if you're a wizard or something, a wizard fighter, a fighter wizard, and so forth. So these feats, they come in from all different sources, not just one. You're a third level. Now you can pick from this huge list of feats, and they've got prerequisites. You get feats from various other sources, and you don't have to worry about only taking a feat every 4 levels or whatever, because every character gets stuff at every level. For instance, at 2nd level, fighter gets a fighter feat and a skill feat. At 3rd level, they get bravery, which is a fighter ability, a general feat, and a skill increase. At 4th level, you get a fighter feat and a skill feat. So these feats are just being poured upon you, like the potion of random numbers. These, and it's going to become, super easy to have a lot of different feats and get a lot of different things from a lot of different sources, and they just kind of pile up on you. So there is a steady accumulation to in my mind. We haven't played this yet, but to me, in my mind, I'm seeing a steady accumulation of a linear power ramp that's going to go up very slow and very steady to make your character powerful in time, but not like weak overpowered. It's it's gonna slowly go up. So that's pretty cool to me. I'm the more I read about this system, the more I like it, the more I enjoy it. So there it is, and so that will be. I can't think of anything else that I may have missed after that. Just there's a lot of feats. I'm hoping they come out with more, just because it's always possible to refine. I mean, you got to have more books, right? I do. I have to have more books. As you can see, kind of got a thing for the written word. So after that, it goes into equipment, and I could probably go ahead and mention that because the next chapter is spells, and we'll want to take our time with that. There is a thing where it's bulk, where your carrying capacity is measured in bulk now. It tells you in the equipment section how many hands it takes to do various things with changing equipment, how much you can drag. I haven't really gone over with this, so I apologize for my leafing. But the prices of things are much different in this world. It's like all of a sudden everything just kind of dropped in price. Like gold became really, really scarce. Padded armor is 2 silver pieces. A breastplate is 8 gold. So my performance that got 10 gold pieces from earlier, that was probably a week's work, just based on what I could do with those 2 gold pieces once those 10 gold pieces once I got them. Splint mail is 13, full plate is 30. So yeah, and then it's got the damaging armor and shields what they do, their armor class bonus, which you have to do the raise a shield action, which it kind of a bummer, but it's kind of not, because you have to raise your shield to block a blow, and you get +1 on your armor class. I would allow, because I've used a shield in real life, and I know that you can very actively mess somebody up with a shield. Number one, the edge of it you can right there, or right there, or in the bridge of the nose. Yeah, edge of a shield mess you up. It's like getting hit with one of the flanges of a mace, and a lot of shields are just as heavy as a mace. So yeah, there you go. But what I'm saying is, you can raise your shield, use an action and raise your shield, and that gives you +1 armor class. Or you can actively make like an opposed attack roll against their attack to actively hit their weapon and skew it from its intended path, which is probably right there, which is what I would do. I would allow that. Then it's got attack roll. It's got all the stats for weapons and their prices. You can buy dagger for 2 silvers. You can get a comma for a gold piece. You could probably get a semicolon for about the same. Yeah. Dwarven war axe, 3 gold pieces, and so forth. So all of the prices have changed. And then it has rules for critical specialization effects, and then your various gear statistics. And then the what you get as a class, your class kit. It costs 9 gold pieces and 6 silvers. Has 4 bulk, 6 light, and you have 5 gold pieces and 4 silvers left over, because everybody gets the same amount of money when they start. And what you wind up with the alchemist kit is you get studded leather armor, a dagger, a sling with 20 sling bullets, an adventurer's pack, alchemist tools, bandolier, basic crafter's book, 2 sets of caltrops, a sheath, and for an extra 2 gold pieces, I'll throw in a repair kit. So that's fine. And I would probably go with that if I didn't really know what to pick at first. So it would also allow you to get the game started quickly at session 0, as they call it. I think having the class kit, I love having extra options, and this book is replete with options. It has a lot of things like that are very just helpful. They didn't have to write that. I mean, they didn't have to put that in there. But somebody went to the Trumbull and say, well, what would a monk have to begin with? Well, they'd have a long spear, staff, an adventurer's pack, which consists of stuff, a bed pack, bedroll, 2 belt pouches, 10 pieces of chalk, flint and steel, 50 foot of rope, always, 2 weeks of rations, soap, important even at the conventions, 5 torches and a water skin. That's an adventurer's pack, and you get that with each of these kits. So while part of the fun for me rolling up characters was going through and doing, picking out the equipment that I wanted, that could seem tedious to people who just want to get on with the game, and I can certainly understand that. I've rolled up about 47,000 characters in my life, and making those characters and picking out every piece of equipment, it may not, after the 36,000th character, I just want an adventurer's kit and be done with it. So that is that. And then, of course, it has good descriptions of all of the things of all of it, the things, including formulas, is gear that you can get. And a formula. This is cool. I just saw this. It's right after alchemical gear and magical gear. Formulas are instructions for making items with the craft activity, which is later on in the book. You can usually read a formula as long as you can read the language it's written in. Logic, though you might lack the skill to craft the item. Often alchemists and crafting guilds use obscure languages or create codes to protect their formulas from rivals. So that's a true thing. Industrial espionage is a consideration. You can buy common formulas at a price listed below. So if the item is like a 5th level item, it would cost 8 gold pieces for the formula to make it. If it's a 19th level item, it costs 2 grand. So I'd have to play the flute for quite a while to get that. Well, I wouldn't. I could do it in one set, a 45-minute set. And then it has a list of services, cost of living for subsistence, the price of animals, and barding, and bulk conversions. And it is a very comprehensive chapter on stuff. So again, another 5 axes for these three chapters. I was only going to do 2, but I decided to throw that in. Hirelings it has. So it's unskilled labor or trained in one skill or just a few skills, just depending. Like if you just wanted, bearers or, like torch bearers or pack bearers, someone to call you Buana or Kimosabe or whatever. And that is an important thing, and a lot of people don't think of it about the whole hireling thing. Who am I going to get to carry all this or whatever? And you just you get them to carry it. Hire like 10 guys to carry your stuff. And they have a +4 modifier in their area of expertise. So that wouldn't really count for bearers, but, they would carry packs. And then, of course, you would want to hire 1 or 2 taskmasters who you're paying them a lot more to make sure that your bearers don't take off with your stuff. And give them spears or whips or bows or bolas if you're not the mean-spirited sort, nets and what have you. And they keep the guys in line, and then you might have one guy who you would hire to keep those guys in line, and you work on him. So, and you make sure that they're all lower level than you, so you don't have a mutiny on your hand. And so forth. So it's all a lot of fun if you just use your head, and common sense. And another 5 axes for these 3 chapters. And when we return, I'm going to be well read on the spells section of chapter 7, and that will tell us about the varying schools and traditions and spell slots and what have you. So $59.99 for Pathfinder, 2nd ed, and it's from Pathfinder. It's from Paizo / Pathfinder, and I really recommend it. I'm really looking forward to when we get our first. I've already got a character rolled, mostly up. He's a dwarf. Imagine that. And his name is, he's an alchemist. I've never had an alchemist character, so I wanted to do an alchemist. His name is Dr. Jethro Warcane. And because I do have a Warcane around here somewhere. It's over there. But it's I got a lot of compliments on it at Gen Con. Because I took a rock hammer and put it on the head of a cane. Or made it head of a cane of a white oak, which is incredibly sturdy. I've nailed many a nail with it, and So that is Pathfinder, second edition. Thanks for watching, and we hope to be back soon with another one. Because I got a lot of other reviews and stuff to do, including stuff from Palladium and Kinzer and Co. have a new cowboy game that I really enjoyed. Neat stuff there, but neither here nor there. As I say, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, I am your host, Dr. Jeff Goins, and I and the rest of us wish for you to want for nothing but adventure. And at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.